Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast with me, your host, Harry Symeou. Marcus Rashford could be on the move pretty soon, but would he be a good fit for the Arsenal? We're going to discuss that on today's episode. We're also going to break down Mikel Arteta's trophy claim, which I think has got him a little bit of stick and probably rightly so. We're also going to discuss who starts tonight against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup quarter-final, a place in the last four of the competition up for grabs for Mikel Arteta's side. Can they get over the line and take one step closer to Wembley? We're going to discuss all of that on today's episode. Thanks for being with me. Hey everybody, how are we? Welcome back to the show. Hope you're all having a good Wednesday so far. It's the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast with me, Harry Symeou, and I will ask you just before we dive into today's content to leave a like on the video if you're watching us on YouTube. If you're a regular here, you know exactly what you're going to get. You get it pretty much every day. So I'd ask very, very kindly from the bottom of my heart for you guys to leave a like nice and early, because I keep forgetting to do this until really late in the shows, and we're not getting enough likes on the board at the moment. So that's my bad, but I thought I'd get it in nice and early. Also, if you're listening to us on any of the audio platforms, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the likes, please do leave us a review on those, because that also really, really does help. It's Wednesday morning. I'm coming to you from a chilly North London, although the sun is just creeping through a little bit at the moment. I'm hoping that the conditions at Emirates Stadium tonight are going to be as decent as one could ask for in the middle of December, just a week or so out from Christmas. It's a big old occasion, this. We're going to preview the game in a little bit more depth in just a bit. But, you know, when people say the Carabao Cup doesn't matter or the League Cup doesn't matter, I agree that it is at the bottom of our priority list. I've said that for years and years and years, and I'm not going to change my stance on that. But when you're a side who have developed so much over recent years, yet the one thing that you haven't really done is well, you definitely haven't done is win silverware. You can't turn your nose up at competitions like this. Winning this Carabao Cup could be a lift-off point for this Arsenal side. I said it on yesterday's show. Getting over the line is the hardest bit. If you can get over the line in this competition, you have those celebrations. You know what it feels like. You almost get addicted, don't you, to that winning feeling, and that could put you in a place that failing to win simply doesn't get you. And then that leap between being kind of expected to win and actually doing it, that gap becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So if Arsenal could win a trophy in February or the beginning of March, imagine what a boost that would give us going into the real business end of the season, and hopefully still fighting on multiple fronts. I do want to say a few hellos, because there's plenty of you with us in the live chat. We've got Grant Jr., Gunner, Rumble, Richard Jones, Richie's with us, Haylor, Louis, John Daly. We've got Ibrahim. We've got Alfred, Wandering Minstrel is with us. Darren Taylor, Yontora, Sheila is with us. We've got lots of people joining us. Darren is joining us from Rwanda. That's quite a way away. Good to see you in the live chat, mate. Thank you so much for being with us. I know all of the comments are directed at the Marcus Rashford question. Would Marcus Rashford be a good fit for Arsenal? Would you take him at Arsenal? And there is a poll in the live chat. I'll be interested to see how that goes over the course of this live stream. So get in there and let me know your thoughts. And I'll come back to the Rashford bit in a little while, because I think that's probably the most debatable story we're going to talk about today. So we'll save that till the end. But I do want to start off by talking about a claim that Mikel Arteta made in his press conference yesterday, that, if I'm being honest, has gone down like a lead balloon. And I'm often one of the people, you know, who is criticized for being super pro Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta's lawyer is the one that I get probably most frequently. And I do defend him on a lot of things, because, as I've said time and time again, without boring you, I do think that generally he's done a very, very good job to get Arsenal Football Club back into a place where they're competitive. But that doesn't mean that I agree with everything he does and everything he says. And just like on yesterday's show, as I said to you guys, I've got huge and immense respect for Thierry Henry for everything that he done for the football club. But again, that doesn't mean I have to blindly agree with everything that he says and everything that he does. And I took so much stick yesterday for daring to say that Arsenal legend Thierry Henry was, I think, focusing too much on Gabriel Martinelli and maybe some of his shortcomings, rather than understanding that this is partly down to Gabriel Martinelli, but a wider consequence, I think, of the team's approach, of the team's mentality at the moment, and of the game model that Mikel Arteta prioritizes. So, yeah, I think all of that is worth discussing, worth debating. If you want to hear my thoughts in depth on that, you can go back to yesterday's show. But the point I'm trying to make here is that it doesn't matter who it is, Thierry Henry, Mikel Arteta, Arsene Wenger, my mum, my dad, it doesn't really matter. Whoever it is, I can respect someone, but it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything that they say. And if we all agreed, what a boring world it would be. So I have to say that I disagree with Mikel Arteta sort of biting back at, I think it was Dharmesh Seth's question, which was built up by speaking around the fact that Arsenal have won one major trophy since Mikel Arteta's got here. And he was talking about the pressure that comes with that, the pressure around it. You know, Arsenal are expected to go on and do bigger and better things, and it hasn't really happened yet. The process seems to have worked quite well in terms of getting us into the arena we need to be in, but we haven't got over the line yet. And Mikel Arteta kind of bit back and said, what? Or well, he didn't say what, but he kind of bit back and went, 2 Community Shields. So that's 3 trophies, no? And I just thought, Mikel, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you don't want to go down that Eric Ten Hag route, right, of defending yourself and making silly points where you're so focused on defending yourself. I've been moaning about his team being too focused on defending recently, but now he seems to be too focused on defending himself against the criticism that's coming his way. Look, the stick that Arsenal have got in the last week or so, 2 weeks probably, since the Fulham game, has been over the top. It has been at times bordering on ridiculous. But I think people are right to be concerned by the fact that in open play, the team is not delivering as much as we know it can, because the past tells us that. And I think you can get into this space where you become super defensive to the point where you end up becoming a little bit deluded. And I'm not saying that Mikel is there or that he's deluded, but I think what happens is that you go into this mode where when people ask you a question, which is a fair and valid question, you go into this kind of headspace of, I don't really care what you're saying, and I don't really care if you've got a point. I'm going to bite back at you because I need to divert away from this point and from this question. And I felt like that was what Mikel Arteta was trying to do yesterday. And look, I admire the kind of us against everybody else mentality. And I think that's been a real big part of why Arsenal have progressed over the years. I think you look at some of the decisions that have gone against us, and then the manager coming out and being really critical of those decisions. Rightly so in the case of Newcastle, which is the one that's in my mind, Newcastle away last season. And then you think about the club following that up with a statement, and that kind of togetherness and unity that we showed as Arsenal Football Club. It came right from the top, all the way down the hierarchy to the manager, to the players. And then obviously as fans, we all got on board with that as well. And maybe it didn't do us a massive favor in terms of changing the course of some of these decisions or changing the way that we're refereed. But what it did do is build a togetherness and a unity. And like, I think Mikel Arteta really does believe in that. So I'm not saying, by the way, that he's doing this deliberately and that he's got some grand master plan up his sleeve, and that you should all ignore this comment because it is part of a wider plan or work around something that he feels is a problem right now. You're well within your right, as I'm doing right now, to criticize him for that, because for a long, long time, you know, in this country, we've not regarded the Community Shield as a major trophy, and nor should we, in my opinion. It is a glorified friendly. It is a curtain raiser that happens at the start of every season in order to ultimately generate TV revenues and funds. People get excited about it because the time of year it comes around is at a point where people have been starved of football, starved of club football, and that's why people get on board with it. It's nice when you win it. It's nice to celebrate it for 15, 20 minutes after the full-time whistle, particularly when you get one up on a side that you are rivals with. Yeah, I enjoyed it when we won it last time out, but the next day it was done. And the next day it was all focus on the Premier League and all focus on things that we need to do to achieve what we want in the major competition. So, you know, Mikel Arteta may have let himself down a little bit with that comment there. Richie says it's like counting the Audi Cup as a trophy. I don't think it's quite the same as that, because that is something that is, your entry is dependent on sponsorships, right? Whereas I guess the Community Shield is kind of seen like a super cup in this country, league winners, cup winners. But Cincinnati's point is great, where he says, especially since we qualified from second place, not by winning something, maybe we should be a bit sort of humble in sort of bringing that up and trying to refer to that as a trophy. Listen, I agree with all of that. I think Mikel Arteta had a bit of a shocker there. Okay, let's turn our attentions to tonight's game. Arsenal take on Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup quarter-final. Who's going to play? So I've been racking my brain for ages trying to figure out A, who I think should start, and B, who I think Mikel Arteta will start. And the truth is, I have no idea who Mikel Arteta will start. He mentioned in the press conference that Declan Rice is fine, which is good. Will he start, or will he be a little bit, worried about him, wary about his situation and condition because, he couldn't complete the game against Everton at the weekend. There's lots and lots to consider and to think about when it comes to this team selection. But what I'm wary of is us sleeping on Crystal Palace, because Crystal Palace are a side that ended last season really, really strongly. Everybody looked at them with envy and thought, wow, they took a big step. They took a big jump moving away from Roy Hodgson, who was a safe pair of hands, but was never really going to take the club onto that next level. They bring in Oliver Glasner, and at the end of last season, they looked fantastic. Okay, they lost a few players over the course of the summer, but based on what you'd seen, the system that Glasner had put in place, you were looking at them from afar and thinking, this is a side that will be fine. And for what it's worth, I think they will be fine in terms of survival in the Premier League. They have a potential opportunity here to book their place in the last four of a cup. When was the last time Crystal Palace managed that? I can't remember. So that is obviously a massive thing in itself. But yeah, I mean, you look at this team and yeah, they've had their downs and their lows at the start of this season, but they've had a few highs of late. Their form has much improved. They, of course, went and won handsomely at Brighton at the weekend, which isn't an easy thing to do. And so I think there's a level of respect that you have to pay to a club like Crystal Palace, to a team like Crystal Palace, whereby you can't then go out and just make 11 changes and think that that's going to be enough to get you over the line. Not in my opinion. Not in my opinion. So on that basis, I've gone with a really, really strong team. I've gone with David Raya in goal, because obviously Neto is cup tied. I probably would have given Neto a run in this competition had he been available to play, but only Arsenal sign a cup goalkeeper who's cup tied. Clever. But I'll go Raya in goal. Then there's a debate around the defense, right? Because obviously Gabriel made it back for the Everton game, but there's probably still some worry and concern about maybe overloading him. Then you've got Timber, who is pretty injury prone. We're down to the bare bones at left back. Mikel Arteta's confirmed that Zinchenko and Calafiori remain sidelined. So the defense is a really interesting one. Do you play Jurrien Timber knowing that you go to Selhurst Park on Saturday? Honestly, I don't know. Do you play Thomas Partey at right back because he didn't start the game at the weekend? Maybe. But I also think that because of our left back situation and the potential of Gabriel maybe being rested, that you might need Kivior at centre back. Therefore, he can't really play at left back. Therefore, you want to put Miles Lewis-Skelly in, who I think can only play at left back. And this is just my opinion. A lot of people would disagree with this. I think can only play at left back when we've got the right defense in there alongside him. Because I still think he needs a bit of protection. I don't think he's the greatest defender. Understandably so, because he was brought up as a midfield player. I like Lewis-Skelly when he inverts. I like it when he goes in field. But he's only going to be able to do that effectively against Premier League level opposition when he's got Gabriel in behind him. Therefore, my back four, I'm going to take the gamble on Timber. Is Timber at right back, Saliba and Gabriel at centre back, and Miles Lewis-Skelly at left back. That's how I'd start the game. Now, depending on how the game goes, depending on what the game state looks like, when you get into the second half, 60, 70 minutes in, maybe you can take some of those players off, protect them, and, and sort of see them get that little bit extra rest and leave a little bit in the tank for Crystal Palace away at the weekend. But as I said right at the top, we've got a big chance here, big chance to go and win silverware. And we've got to try and grab it with both hands. People are not going to forgive Mikel Arteta if he makes a decision around the team that sees us fail, sees us dumped out. When you look at our league situation right now, and you look at the fact that we've got a few issues that probably make people feel like the Champions League is out of our reach as well. People are starting to get tetchy, people are starting to get a little bit irritated, a little bit on edge, a little bit nervous about this project not, amounting to something tangible in the sense of trophies. And when I'm talking about trophies, I'm not talking about your Carabao Cups. Your Carabao Cup is a nice thing. It will be a nice day out, a nice trophy to have, and it would give us something to look back on the season with. But if we only won the Carabao Cup, I wouldn't say that this was a overwhelmingly successful season. I would find it hard to call it a really negative season if we bring home silverware. But this team was built to win the Premier League, and this team was built to win the Champions League. The Carabao Cup, and to a certain degree, even the FA Cup, should be side products of that. They should be side dishes. They shouldn't be the main course, if that makes sense. So anyway, I'm going with that strong defense: Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, and Miles Lewis-Skelly. In the midfield, I'm going Jorginho, Merino, and Odegaard. I need to see more of Mikel Merino. I'm not convinced yet. I need to see more. Jorginho, I like. I'm always happy when Jorginho is in the side. Well, maybe not happy because I don't think he's part of our best midfield three, but I'm always comfortable when Jorginho is in the side. It's probably the better way of putting that. And then obviously I play Martin Odegaard. He's a player that, yes, we've got to be wary of overloading given he was out for a while and he's still, I don't think, at 100%. But equally, at the same time, by that same token, he's a player that's a little bit out of form at the moment and probably could do with the rhythm and a good night to get himself firing on all cylinders again. And then my front three, I'd probably play Jesus. I feel for him a little bit because he is someone that clearly has a lot to offer. The problem is that in that vast array of things that he has to offer on that menu, if you like, if you look up and down it, you're not going to find goals. And, I feel like this is a player that has probably come to the end of his time with Arsenal in terms of how useful I see him or how much I value him. But equally, at the same time, he is what we have at the minute. And we cannot keep running Kai Havertz into the ground. So I'd go Jesus up front. I'd play Saka because I think the game's really important, at least from the start. And I'd probably play Leandro Trossard from the left-hand side. So my 11 is a very strong 11. Raya in goal. Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, Miles Lewis-Skelly across the back. Jorginho, Odegaard, and Merino would be my midfield trio. And then I'd have Saka and Trossard either side of Gabby Jesus. So that is my team to face Crystal Palace this evening in the Carabao Cup. Again, I know people are going to disagree with that, and that's fine. If there's something you disagree with, if there's something you do differently, let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. Okay, I've got to give you guys a prediction. And my prediction is Arsenal through on penalties. Yep, I just got a feeling based on how my day's going, based on a lot of other factors outside of football and my life right now, I feel like this is going to be much more stressful than it needs to be. And I think ultimately we'll have enough, but I think we might need a penalty shootout, Yeah, that's my prediction. Okay, right. Let's take a short pause. Before we do that, just want to remind you guys that the Chronicles of Aguna at the moment is sponsored by NordVPN, the best VPN service out there. It's a service that I personally can't do without anymore, whether you're looking to stream your favorite Christmas films or all the festive football. NordVPN is the one for you. It's a game changer, and you can sign up via the link in the description. Visit nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC. And you will get a mega discount as well as 4 months free at the end of your plan. Not only does it give me extra protection when surfing the web, downloading or streaming, I now have the ability to access geo-blocked content by changing my location with the click of a button. It's amazing. It's really that simple. Sign up now via nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC and take advantage of this amazing offer. Plus, with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee, it's totally risk-free. You won't regret it. nordvpn.com/Chronicles AFC. Jid says, Harry, you really need to memorize that script as soon as possible. Do you know what it is? It's too long to memorize, first of all, so that won't be happening anytime soon. But I normally have it on my screen in front of me. And I actually have locked myself out of what I was logged in to read it. And I couldn't remember the password, and I thought it was going to be too late for the stream. So I pulled out a printout that I had of it, and that's why I'm looking down at the page. But it doesn't matter. The message got across, and most of you listen to this on audio anyway, so they'd have never have known if I didn't give it away by responding to Jid's comment there. Of course, lots of people mentioning in the chat that Eddie Nketiah returns tonight, and obviously he can play against us. It was a permanent transfer, so it'll be interesting to see if he starts, how he gets on. You know, players often score against their former clubs, don't they? So be wary of the Eddie Nketiah effect. Anyway, short pause, really short pause. And then we're going to talk about that Marcus Rashford stuff, which I know you're all dying to get into. Welcome back to the pod. Okay, let's do it then. Is Marcus Rashford a good option for Arsenal? Have your say in the comments, and I'll read through as many of them as I possibly can. How has this come about? Well, first of all, it's not the first time, is it, that Marcus Rashford has been linked with a move to Arsenal. He's been linked with the club before. I think it's been obvious for quite some time that things weren't going the way he wanted at Manchester United. Manchester United not getting the maximum out of him. He's a player that, when he's at it, has set such a high bar, but has spent a lot of time not quite at it as well. And I think people are starting to get frustrated with him in Manchester United circles, because there's been some off-the-field stuff as well, which I'm not going to say, is why his form has been as bad as it has, but because you just don't know. It's just very difficult to judge what an impact that kind of stuff can have. But look, I think, has been a big letdown for Manchester United in recent times. And I think the off-the-field stuff makes people not really want to support him anymore. Like, there's players that you look at, like Gabby Jesus is a great example here. We all know deep down that he's not quite good enough. We all know deep down that his form is nowhere near the level that we need. But because he works hard, because he tries hard, and because there's never been an inkling of him being unprofessional or anything like that, there's a support for him. At least I feel that way anyway. I feel like I want him to turn it around. I go into every game that Gabriel Jesus plays and ask any of my colleagues, every time he plays, every time he's on the starting team sheet, I'm always like, I hope Gabby scores tonight. Because I really, really want him to do that. And I really want him to turn the corner and get back to the player that we all know he can be. With Rashford, there's a lot of issues that just make this too high risk for me. Okay? So, first of all, the way he blows hot and cold in terms of his form is not something that I'd be willing to make a big investment on. His wages are humongous, ridiculous, in fact. And I don't think that we as a football club need to take on the burden of someone, financially at that level, when, as I've just said, his form is incredibly hot and cold and you just essentially can't rely on him. His head's not in the game. I think that's obvious to see. I don't know if that will change when he leaves Manchester United, but again, it's too big a risk for me to take if I was Arsenal Football Club right now. I think we've kind of built this reputation under Mikel Arteta of sort of going and saving players whose careers were going the wrong way and who were maybe being laughed at or who were maybe undervalued at their clubs. Jorginho, an example. Kai Havertz, an example. I feel like we tried to do something with Raheem Sterling. And the truth is, guys, from time to time, there will be opportunities to do stuff like that and it will work and it will be great. And Mikel Arteta will be called a genius and Arsenal will be called geniuses for managing to pull that off. The problem here, guys, is that most of the time when you're talking about these players in this predicament, in this position, most of the time there's a reason for it. And so you can't make yourselves this kind of rescue project that you go out and try and rescue players from difficult situations. You can't do it very often. If you really believe it's right, then do it. But when I look at Marcus Rashford, there isn't a single thing that suggests to me that this is right. There isn't a single factor that I would put in the positive column when discussing whether or not Marcus Rashford would be a good fit for Arsenal. In fact, if I think really, really hard now, and this is obviously off the cuff, but I think the one thing you'd say is, well, he can play left wing and he can play through the middle. Some people will tell you that he doesn't play through the middle well enough. But, we always talk about versatility at Arsenal, and we talk about the fact that we need a striker. We also talk about the fact that we probably could do with another winger. And maybe Marcus Rashford ticks 2 of those boxes. That's the only thing I could think of. But I'm a firm no on this. I do not want to see Arsenal break the bank to sign Marcus Rashford. It would cost a fortune to get him out of Manchester United. It would cost a fortune to pay him on a weekly basis. And I just don't see how this works. I just don't see how Arsenal benefit from signing Marcus Rashford. They might benefit a little bit because, as I've said, he can blow hot at times. It's generally cold at the moment, but he has blown hot at times. But will that benefit justify the amount that we'd need to pay to get him into the club and would be paying moving forward over a period of time? And the answer, guys, is no. It's a firm no from me. I do not want to see Arsenal sign Marcus Rashford. I'm sure he can go somewhere, and I'm sure he can reinvigorate his career. Maybe given the press coverage he gets, the scrutiny that he comes under, maybe the best thing for him is to go abroad. But Rehabilitation Centre FC, as Junior Gunner puts it, is not something I want to see us develop into. I would argue that we've already gone a little bit too far in that direction. So this would surely tip us over the edge. No, not for me. Let's get some of your thoughts on this. Jude says, if Rashford is coming in with the role and attitude Welbeck had coming into Arsenal, wanting to come in and help as opposed to starring, then why not? I don't think professionally you can compare Marcus Rashford and Danny Welbeck. I mean, I might be wrong, and feel free to dig out the receipts if you got them, but I don't ever remember Danny Welbeck being in the headlines for being unprofessional, for getting the hump, for getting the arse. And the thing that I find most fascinating about this as well, by the way, and the way he's sort of given this nugget of information to Henry Winter, and it's a great scoop for him, obviously, congratulations to him on that. But the thing I find strange about this is the timing, right? The timing makes it look like this is very, very much a self-serving thing. And look, obviously it's self-serving because what Marcus Rashford is hoping to do is to put other clubs on alert as to his availability and all the rest of it. But the reason I think this is wrong in terms of the timing, and the reason it doesn't sit well with me, it's not because Marcus Rashford's been open about his future. As people that cover the game, we're always clamoring for players to be more open, to be more transparent, to be more honest. My problem is that this comes days after you were dropped from the squad. Ruben Amorim was talking about the way people dress, the way they carry themselves, the way they apply in training, the way they integrate with their teammates. He's obviously looked at Marcus Rashford and thought, nah, I don't fancy this. And it's the same with Garnacho. And listen, both of those players have got history of there being issues off the field. And so, once you can give a player a benefit of the doubt, twice you can give him benefit of the doubt. If you think the manager's not quite at it, and maybe it's a problem of his making, then you can give them the benefit of the doubt. But I think Amorim is very competent. And I think that with the history of Rashford and Garnacho, some of the comments we've heard made about Garnacho, Amorim has his reasons, and they're probably valid and good reasons for leaving those guys out. So for that reason, I don't want us to go anywhere near him. Junior Gunner says he's miles off it, doesn't track back, doesn't press, is inconsistent. Arteta needs to drop the captain, save a... Oh my God, I can't say that on the pod, but Arteta needs to drop the save people gimmick. We'll put it that way. Alex says Rashford on a loan with part of his wages covered is better in January than not getting anyone if guys like Lookman and Williams, etc., aren't available. Yeah, but do you think Manchester United are going to give him to us on loan? Manchester United, I don't think, are in as desperate situation to get rid of Marcus Rashford as maybe Chelsea were to get rid of Raheem Sterling. Rumble says, I loved Danny Welbeck. Me too. Wasn't the greatest player, but applied himself really well. Always worked incredibly hard for the team, and is a model professional. I just don't think that Marcus Rashford falls into that category. What else have we got in the chat? Alfred just changing the subject a little bit, talking Nuno Tavares. Listen, Nuno Tavares has done really well at Lazio, but Nuno Tavares always does well at the beginning. So let's see how we're thinking about him and looking at him at the end of the season is what I'd say on that one. But back to the Rashford chat. Bilal says, maybe Rashford has been at Manchester United too long and needs a fresh start. Yes, I agree with that. I think it's partly to do with him, the reason that he's in the situation that he's in, but maybe it's just gone a bit stale for him. And that's fine. It happens. It's football. But at the same time, that doesn't give me any confidence that going and spending a load of money on him would make any business sense. So, yeah. Okay. What else have we got? New Music says, I just still genuinely think in a new stable environment, Rashford can thrive. But as well, think about what's happened. Like Kai Havertz came in, right, as one of these kind of save the player projects, okay? And I think he's done well. But there is a debate around him. There's a discussion around Kai Havertz that will always be there because people were so underwhelmed, I think, generally by what he did at Chelsea. So there's that one. And I also think that because people feel the team has needs that that Havertz, I beg your pardon, can't fulfill, i.e. this goal scorer who's going to get you 30 a season, I think that he will always be under immense scrutiny. Raheem Sterling was one. Raheem Sterling comes in, and I think people have looked at that and gone, it's not worked. And whether you put that on Sterling and you believe that he's not showing enough on the training pitch, or whether you put that on Mikel Arteta, who wants people to put it on him and says, nope, it's me, I'm not giving him the minutes. That's up to you. But ultimately, that is a signing that is under incredible scrutiny because of how divided people were when that decision was made. If you bring Marcus Rashford in, he's going to be under just as much scrutiny as he is at Manchester United within the context of the Arsenal world. So it's another player who you're going to spend a lot of money on, but you're going to put loads and loads and loads of pressure on as well. So yeah, it's just one that comes with too many risks for me. Jude says, if Mikel says he spoke to Rashford and trusts that he has the right mentality and attitude to help the club from January till the end of the season on loan, would you not take his word for it? First of all, I don't know why people are so optimistic at this possibility of getting him on loan. I don't think that happens, guys. I'd be shocked if Manchester United gave us Marcus Rashford on loan, number one. But number two, he said all the same things about Raheem Sterling. We didn't go and get a forward. We got Raheem Sterling. We were convinced by the club that Raheem Sterling was the right option, was going to do the business. And we're nearly halfway through the season and we've seen nothing from him. So this signing would fall into that category for me. And I don't want to make another signing in that category. That's just my personal opinion. Rumble says, I like Sterling as a player, was never given the chance. For what it's worth, I think the same thing too. I think that Raheem Sterling has had way too few opportunities, given his history, given his quality, given we know what's in the player. There's been times where we've been chasing a goal and we've changed our left or right back before we've brought Raheem Sterling on. So I agree. He deserves more opportunities. But because of the divisive nature of that signing in the beginning, you know, the pressure that is on Raheem Sterling is not helpful. And I think Rashford has shown that having the world's weight on his shoulders, it don't work for him. He can't handle it. Look how he's crumbled at Manchester United recently. So, yeah, I want to see Arsenal go and take decisive action in the forward positions come January. Whether they will or not is another story. It's another matter. But I want to see Arsenal go out there and attempt to accelerate maybe some plans that they had for the summer and try and make those deals happen in January. If you've got to pay a bit more, pay it. If you've got to pay a bit of a premium price, you do it, because We need something in that attack. We are missing something. It's obvious for everybody to see. It's clear for everybody to see. I think some of it can be rectified with coaching. I think some of it can be rectified with a slight mentality shift and a change in our build-up and the way that we seek to go about dominating matches. But ultimately, I still think we're a player short in that area. Okay, I am going to leave it there. A massive thank you to every single one of you for joining me. Gave you my 11 for the Crystal Palace game and my firm answer on the question of whether or not Arsenal should sign Marcus Rashford. If I go into the poll, we've had lots of you are voting now. We've had like over 100 votes. 42% of you would take Marcus Rashford at Arsenal. 58% of you say no. So it's a little bit more torn than I thought it would be. Just a quick reminder, though, before we sign off, if you haven't left a like on the video, guys, let's get to 100 likes before I hit the button to sign out. It would really, really help. If you're listening on audio, leave us a review. Remember, subscribe and all the rest of it. And I'll see you all on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great day. Goodbye.